Welcome to the Dream Train. Come aboard, everyone. I'm going to take you on a fun little ride through the dream domain, a journey into the other, as you'll find out. And so why I call it the dream will become very apparent later on in this presentation. The title of this presentation is a Graphical User Interface, and why I call it that will also be very apparent as I get into this material here. I'd like to start with an interesting piece of work by Heinrich Kuhnrath, the Theosophist, Kabbalist, Hermetic, mystic, and alchemist. The Amphitheater of Eternal Wisdom, and if you can see at the very top beam there's a Latin, well, of course you can't see what it says, but I'll tell you what it says. It says, while sleeping, watch. Very important. And what that refers to is that alchemical work involves use of conscious as well as unconscious operations. And the dream, of course, is a gateway drug to the unconscious realm, which we're going to explore today. So you can see, you've probably known some of these facts, but many important people in our history have been inspired by their dreams or by the dream. You know, Henri Poincaré and Auguste Kekulé had very important scientific discoveries through their dreams. Dmitri Mendeleev, of course, and the periodic table of elements. Elias Howe, the sewing machine. Mary Shelley and Frankenstein. Of course, the mystical experience of Descartes, in which a flash of the order of all sciences were revealed to him through perhaps the whisperings of alien minds. And then one of the most inspiring, I think, was Srinivasa Ramanujan, in which the Hindu goddess Namagiri would appear in his dreams and reveal mathematical proofs. In fact, he produced nearly 4,000 proofs and equations in a short period of time, actually, and he had no mathematical training. Interesting. So, most likely whenever you hear dreams, you also hear something about symbolism. Well, symbols appear in all kinds of psychic manifestations, and we're always creating psychic associations, but there are symbolic thoughts and feelings, symbolic acts and situations. It often seems that even inanimate objects cooperate with the unconscious in the arrangement of symbolic patterns, and there are numerous well-authenticated stories of clocks stopping at the moment of their owner's death. Frederick the Great at Sanssouci was one notable example, and you know it's an interesting phenomenon, this entanglement with between matter and consciousness, and it points to, well, one, the holographic nature of the universe, and two, that the world, the universe, the cosmos is much more fluid, intentional, flexible, and responsive than we could even begin to imagine it would be. And here we have the Pimbles, the great Pimbles. Now, Pimbles is just simply a pet name, which is a hybrid of symbolic pictures, basically. This is the kind of the meat of the dream and the psychedelic session, right? These are symbolic pictures, characters, archetypes. They're poetic, artistic, surreal, poignant expressions of the self and the cosmos, or the energies of the cosmos. You know, whether fragments of the self yearning for completion, flashes of insight, whisperings of an alien supermind, you know, or the cosmic codes for the seed of life. These images are dense with data, and they're information generators. They're what I call concrescences, and they tell a story. And they can really guide your research, as it did mine. So we're going to get into the dream mechanics a little bit, get into some of the mechanical, technical details of the dream function. And now we're getting into the title of the dream, Graphical User Interface. Before I move further, you'll notice that I refer to dreams as the dream. And what I've done here is I've decided to re-engineer the dream parameters and to exteriorize it so as to grasp the true meaning of what the dream is. And it's not just a jumble of archetypally treated symbols within the narrow mental space, but an extruded, all-encompassing sphere of reality that pervades every aspect of our being. It's a vast and tangled matrix or web that can bootstrap us into higher realms of consciousness. It can invoke the Godhead within and allow us to be at the control panels, you know, so we can laugh all the way to the Psi Bank. You know, the Psi Bank, where they store the Akashic archives near the Cosmic Merkaba and the Amplitude-Hedron, you know, that DNA machine thingy. Right. Thought you would know. For those of you who have done DMT, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So, in short, the GUI, or Graphical User Interface, GUI for short, is an animated psychic interface that allows for greater conscious control, programming, synthesis, and restoration. And when you open your laptop or computer, your PC, you have a graphic user interface, a GUI. What does that GUI have? It has icons, right? We're an icon-driven world. And there's this parallel between the material world of technology and the ethereal world of the personal and collective unconscious. In both realms, we can download and upload information. It also represents a yearning for the archaic, or the underground, and the transcendental, or hyperspace. There's what Jung would call a coincidentia positorum phenomenon here that's built into this. And our technologies and cultural artifacts represent a deep human desire and quest for the journey to the other. And we project our consciousness onto these things. So it's kind of like a modern archetypal and alchemical function. Now, the dream GUI is a liminal zone that allows one to transect some hyperdimensional reality or object, to forge that spirit-matter bridge, and to surf the cosmic web and learn the iconography of the archetypes, those information generators. Now, getting into the actual function here of a dream, what's happening is there's a metaphysical transmission or broadcast produced by the brain's cleansing, scanning, defragging, dissolving, restorative function of a very highly complex, multi-sensory, spiritual, multi-dimensional being. Right? This recalibrates our psychic constitution. It perhaps provides an opportunity for being uploaded into the collective matrix. It's an electromechanical biological transduction cascade. Okay, that sounds really complex, but let me explain that here in just a second. But let me give you an example of what I'm talking about here. So this occurred to me, of course, on DMT, and sometimes you can feel the scanning and the cleansing happening on deeper and deeper levels. And in that process, memories and all kinds of things are released as it's doing this. So it creates a broadcast, okay, a transmission. It's kind of like when you cut down a rainforest and you start unleashing all these dormant viruses and diseases and shadow creatures, right? It's kind of like a Eleusinian jubilee that purifies the palimpsest, if I can be poetic there. Right, so all the demons are flying out, all this stuff is happening. Now, let me go to the next slide here. Rick Strassman calls DMT the spirit molecule, and in this presentation I'm referring to it as the dream molecule. When we're sleeping at night, it's believed that we have DMT in our bloodstream, which is being produced by the pineal gland. Now, the pineal gland is not protected by the excuse me, blood-brain barrier, so the fluid inside gathers mineral deposits or brain sand. These have optical and chemical properties very similar to the enamel on our teeth. The pineal cells reflect light. This is called phototransduction cascade. You know, DMT, when it's loaded up in the pineal gland, it has these piezoelectric microcrystals that are piezoelectric, right? They expand and contract in the presence of electromagnetic fields and give off light. Now, what's very interesting about this is that they've done experiments in the laboratory that shows DNA attracts photons, even in the dark. So it's coming from, you know, a zero-point field or a source field, right? So there's all kinds of things occurring. We're pulling in things from a hyperdimensional realm, and when you take into consideration, you know, morphic resonance, these non-spatiotemporal fields and creative patterns, which are basically memory traces of all humans. You know, that's how inventors come up with the same thing at the same time, and, you know, the 100th monkey phenomenon. Anyway, it's possible this is all picked up by the dream, right? So it's much more than we even could even begin to consider, and what, you know, Western science has failed us in this regard. You know. Okay, so now we're going to talk about that was kind of dream mechanics, and now we're going to talk about dream metaphysics. So some of the broader applications of this, the first being a sort of a cultural reengineering. So the dream, in addition to all this, also gives us poetry and art, teaches us to live creatively, integratively, harmoniously, and to embrace our personal and collective shadow, to become the adventure. The dream is where we belong, you know, at play in the fields of the goddess, the Eleusinian fields, right? This is the celebration of mind as play, but this has been buried and guarded by society, and this is why a lot of people are afraid of dream material and the unconscious and psychedelics, because they know and understand once you touch that deep inner core, that you're not going to be led into product fetishism, consumerism. So the message is that culture can be re-engineered as a set of new values rather than as a consumer-based product. And it's this source that that are seen in dreams that is the impetus behind all the world's religions and philosophies and so on and so forth. What we're also seeing here is boundary dissolution. Okay, this is an important function, something that, gosh, Terence McKenna just hammered in constantly, and for good reason. And dissolving boundaries is really freedom, whether it's dissolving boundaries between the rich and the poor, the feminine and the masculine, living in the dead, or science and religion. All boundaries dissolve with the dream and psychedelics. And the social metaphor that captures this is revolution, which is an eruption from the unconscious, from the dream domain. And it's not reasonable nor rational, nor is the dream reasonable or rational, right? It has a logic and breadth of its own. It's the overmind kind of intersecting in the geopolitical gestalt, right? And the way to break out of this cultural dead-end is to have a tremendous eruption of creative expression, which we're more suited to. And this is what the dream tells us. It's a poetic expression of great cosmic beauty. The dream also has as a central message how to synthesize conflicting forces, another coincidentia positorum notion here, how to return to childhood, the roots, the wellspring, how to exude or how to extrude the soul, how to exude love, passion and beauty as a force so pervasive that it dissolves not just boundaries but conflict and synthesizes conflict, whatever is most appropriate. It radiates outward into our communities, inspires us to truly live so we can regain the felt presence of the moment. How to be the expert and the amateur, the creator and the destroyer, the lover and the leader. It's a common human conquest for happiness, peace, and unity. It's about one mind. Just as Erwin Schrödinger said, 100 years ago, multiplicity is only apparent. In truth, there's only one mind. And I think if we really, truly felt this notion and understood it, we'd stop killing each other. This would solve a lot of issues. But, it's very much like true love. When you have true love, it radiates beyond the epicenter of the romantic dyad into the family, into the community. If you ever get a chance to read your next fun novel, read Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground. It really exemplifies this notion of unity and transformation in the dream. So let's talk a little bit about culture and the dream here. So dreams reflect culture, and artifacts within culture reflect our predicament. Cultural artifacts are extruded dream material, all part of a vast, entangled cosmic web, right? Shimmering reflections of a single cosmic mind. And our evolution for the past 100,000 years has involved culture and technology. And we're seeing some new interesting phenomenon being revealed, a reflection, I believe, of dissolving boundaries and this notion of what I have termed migratory traversing. And so whether it's art, toys, food, or technology, these cultural artifacts create their own disappearance. It's a migration into a transcendental domain, that bridge between spirit and matter. And so in the 20s, we saw, I believe, the disappearance of art with Marcel Duchamp and his ready-mades, right? And now we're seeing the disappearance of data, right? We see this with cloud storage. And it changes our relationship to matter. It becomes very ghostly, right? It's about the spirit, But there's also the reverse modality where you have virtual objects becoming flesh, and it's a resurrection, right? And that's its own kind of myth. The 3D printer is a good example. They're making boats and artificial limbs and houses and stuff like that now, organs. But it's an ecstatic cyclone that reflects our destiny and the animated spirit that exists as part of a transcendental modality. It's accelerating and fusing and mutating at a rapid pace. It's is it the spirit creating beauty and art out of cultural detritus? Is it a sort of a type of cosmic psychospiritual bricolage, an exteriorization of the soul? And it's truly a response from nature, I think, but it's like nature as the bowerbird, making this shiny, colorful, artistic nest, and we can see our reflections in all those mirrored, shimmering jewels that make up this vast cosmic nest, as we ready ourselves for our journey into the other, right? As we get ready to take flight. So it's an interesting notion, and I think virtuality and simulation, technology, and the internet also resurrect myths of origin and authenticity and lived experience. And these artifacts are the dream. They represent our destiny for transcendental migration, a yearning for the spirit, an attraction to the Godhead. So it's about unity and transformation, and we need to pay attention to this, because all history is about creating prototypes. If we look at the creation of these prototypes with greater and greater closure every time, right? Cars, planes, ships, starships, right? Going into wormholes, self-transforming products of flight, self-transcendence. So we should be animated and fueled by our dreams rather than searching for some kind of truth. The truth will take care of itself. If we embrace beauty, the furniture will rearrange on its own. So the dreamer artist in today's society needs courage and needs to paint a broad brushstroke that we can all move in concert to articulate a vision that really has to come from the unconscious and from the dream domain, right? And it doesn't have to do with deconstructionism and philosophical post-meaning movements. The dream can provide a new program for art and culture, right, to save the soul of mankind, because there's a great conflagration happening in Rome right now. And we need to listen to nature and listen to the shamans, because we're that, as McKenna said, that antenna to the transcendental other. And we have to work through the dream and through love and intention to create a radical separation from rationalism and embrace beauty. This is the dance of transformation, and we have to find a way to make our dreams on the planet one dream and reconnect to the Gaian mind through the channels that really have always been in existence on the planet for eons. And if you look at our miraculous evolution, in the past 100, 50, 30 years and so on, this should fuel our passionate fire. And so we need to lift our eyes to the real living, spiritually empowered reality that exists in nature and in love and ourselves, right? And then we can see our destiny. Because nature favors courage. Nature will reward the dreamer if we accept the gift that nature gives us. But we have to give the human adventure meaning, and we can do that by discovering the totality within ourselves, and then exemplifying that for each other. It's that feeling of unity, right, which comes also out of a personal act of courage that involves surrender. And so we need to awaken to the adventure and the richness and the openness of the game. We need to forge those rules ourselves. And this is very much like the Quixotic paradigm, the story of Don Quixote. Here we are on the road with the gentleman and the squire, believing that the world is what we've read and realizing the world is reading us. It's a two-way street. And Joe Campbell talked a bit about the Don Quixote story, and that the adventure that the hero is ready for is the one he gets. Symbolically, a manifestation of this character. Our life evokes our character, which is why we have to put ourselves in situations that evoke our higher character rather than our lower one, right? And we need to use our poetic imagination to put the freedom of the human will back into modern life. Then we can turn those giants into windmills. And, Campbell also talked about this meaning. People are always talking about what's the meaning of life. Well, we're really seeking an experience of being alive, and that's what the dream helps us to find within ourselves, the spiritual potentialities of human life, and putting your mind in touch with this experience of being alive. And this is our predicament today, as it was then during the Renaissance, right, during Don Quixote. And you had Shakespeare, right, this notion of the self being represented, right, to thine own self be true, neither a lender or borrower be, right, the verbal sword, that whole thing. And then Copernicus and Galileo were there's a new spatial appetite born in wake of the cosmos. And this is happening on a different level. I think we're at a stage in our lives where we're realizing the vastness of the cosmos. And this should unleash passion and unbridled pride, right? And that, along with the extraordinary capabilities of our consciousness, that the cosmos is alive. Now, overall, it's about passion, beauty, and living authentic lives. Yeats used to say that it takes more courage to to fight on the battlefield than it does to examine the dark corners of the mind. Right. So, this is something that we need to really forge ahead with examining the self, right, and asking those important questions. You know, am I the bulb that carries the light, or am I the light of which the bulb is a vehicle? And, truly feeling alive and being authentic. So I talk about this notion of emergent nativity and the primer. Ooh, the primer. And really what that's all about is, you know, there's a loss of control in today's world, where a system of meanings breaks down. It might do something unexpected, but our existence breaks away into something more sublime and new. And what starts as a loss of control concludes with an openness of possibility, right? And we achieve not by limiting ourselves according to fear, but by embracing the fear to access new conditions. The less we limit ourselves, the broader we define our parameters, the more we're capable of achieving. It's about living life generatively to increase the kind of opportunities we can make available to ourselves. This is emergent possibility. Now, and of course, you know, just like Campbell said, the universe will open doors where there are only walls. If you look at this movie Contact, there's a really awesome scene in there, one of my favorite scenes. And I saw that whenever it first came out, and I was still blown away by it. Something struck me about it. First of all, here we have Jodie Foster receiving messages from beyond, right? Hyperspace, the transcendental other. In the movie, it's aliens, or ETs, which is absurd because, you know, of course we've been contacted physically, and very much, very likely through the sort of mental domain, right? That's what you do if you're ET. You insinuate yourselves through that domain, study the situation. As Terence McKenna said, you hide behind the pink elephants in that domain of sanctioned peculiarity. But, you know, they have these huge radio telescopes, but they're all around us. I mean, it's ridiculous. But anyway, she gets the message from Vega. And it's a video broadcast of Hitler when they put it all together, and they don't know what to do. They kind of freak out. But S.R. Haddon comes along and he said, hey, you got to think like a Vega. And this reveals the primer. This is what we need, and this is what the dream reveals, the primer of emergent possibility. It's just that one shift that we need. You know? And it happens when things are going crazy and Rome is burning. So when you explore your dreams in psychedelic sessions and really think about our history as a human species, our, you know, from picking nuts and berries on the plains and forests to sending rovers to Mars in 100,000 years, I mean, there's no doubt there's some kind of alien supermind intervening. You know, is it a Gaian mind or biome intelligence? Or part of the noosphere, I don't know, but it's clear that there's some kind of hyperdimensional intelligence intersecting with life on Earth. Shamans have been communicating with these spirits for thousands of years. They probably know what's going on. But, you know, you can't be, if you're extraterrestrial, you can't, as Terence McKenna says, you can't land a trillion-ton beryllium ship in the middle of Kansas and start handing out cancer cures. You can't be invasive. You study the situation. Now, what's really cool is, let me go to the next slide here, and this will kind of hit home. Look at these stats. And the fact is that the world is teeming, that the cosmos is teeming with life. I mean, for every star in the Milky Way, there's a galaxy. 1% of all the these stats, by the way, come from the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences and NASA, and they're very conservative estimates. 1% of all the stars in the universe have Earth-like planets. It's 100 billion Earth-like planets. Assume only 1% have life, and then assume 1% of those planets advances into an intelligent level. That's 10 quadrillion intelligent civilizations in the universe. You apply that math to the Milky Way, you got 1 billion Earth-like planets, and then 100,000 intelligent civilizations. Wow. Okay, so we have to view, this is really interesting. And we have to view the dream as a technology and be guided by its peculiar logic to creatively reform our language so that we think in new ways beneficial and supportive of our destiny. The dream informs us as to the importance of truly living its course and being open to it and trusting yourself. And we have to treat the study as a living experiment and really incorporate the dream into our lives. And I encourage you all to do that. And I'll leave you with a couple of quotes here. Langston Hughes, to dream of vast horizons of the soul. Mark Twain, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do by the ones you did do. So throw off the bowlines, sail away from the safe harbor, catch the trade winds in your sails, explore, dream, discover. And as Bilbo Baggins said, the greatest adventure still lies ahead. All right, thank you all very much. I hope you have a great night. And as Edward R. Murrow used to say, good night and good luck. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.